The bounce. Been reading these lessons. It helped convince me to file for divorce after I discovered my wife's affair. I tried to reconcile. That attempt lasted about 2 years, during which time I was constantly angry, obsessed with the details of her affair, constantly imagining what she had done with this guy. I was always convinced she was still cheating. It was just awful. Anyway, 5 months ago I left and filed for divorce. A constant sense of anger, the mind movies, the obsession with the other man and her affair has gotten much better, and I can almost say that I've moved on from that. However, I'm now depressed about the impending divorce. I'm worried about the loss of assets and having to pay spousal support. It just seems like one set of issues has been replaced by another set of issue, which will end up making me a poorer man. Nothing seems to help. I have a girlfriend now, but I'm still thinking about the life I had with my wife, our kids, our house. I just don't know. I remember how angry I was, and I remember it was also a nightmare, but I just can't feel it, so it seems unreal. What I feel now is mostly sad. How long does this last? I really want to call her and try to reconcile again, but I'm guessing I'll just get angry all over again. Plus, I've already spent $2,000 on a lawyer. Has anyone gone through this? My wife did not want a divorce, and during the first 2 months after I filed, she reached out several times, and we even spent a few days together during the 5 months we have been separated. The 3 days were mostly good, but I kept bringing up the affair, and she said she was just so tired of it. After I met my girlfriend, I made my profile picture of me and her in an intimate pose. Once I did that, my wife defriended me on FB, and we haven't spoken since. In fact, all our mutual FB friends defriended, and I'm guessing they only know half the story. I don't think I did all she needed to do to reconcile. The biggest issue was her timeline doesn't make sense, and whenever I pointed out inconsistencies, she would shut down. I honestly don't think anything would help me get over it. I think I read on this channel that some people can move on from an affair and some people can't. Personally, for 2 years, it's about all I ever thought about. Now all I can think about is how I'll get raked over in the divorce, and anger has been replaced by sad. Keep moving forward and don't try to reconcile again. I know that's the correct course. I wanted to hear it though, and I heard it. But I'm definitely depressed. I keep waking up at like 3 a.m. and can't get back to sleep. I'm not eating. Just after D-Day, I also couldn't eat or sleep, but I had a frantic kind of energy that was almost pleasant. Now I just have no energy. I'm thinking about antidepressants. I told everyone in my family, but telling neighbors would probably humiliate my daughters. And honestly, I don't really give a crap what they think. About stay-at-home mom, for part of the marriage she was. Before the marriage, she had no degree and a crap job. I helped her while she was working on her degree, not financially. She got loans and financial aid, but with things like driving her to school, picking up the kids. Just after D-Day, I was going to leave, but I stuck around until she got her degree and landed a job. Now she makes about as much as I do, and her earning potential is much greater. I won't be paying spousal support forever. It's just that I don't want to pay any. It just doesn't seem right. Right down to the texts I keep on hand to remind me why I had to divorce. It's also hard on my daughters, especially my 9-year-old. A few days ago, I got a one-word FB text from her, "Daddy," and that was it. I had to sit down when I read that. Also, my GF and I get busy, and it's also not the same. She's like a salve or something. Sometimes I'll think about my wife and I can't perform. It's not fair for her. I'm hoping once the divorce is final and I'm like a year out from when I finally left, it'll be much better. Someone mentioned piling new memories on top of the old memories. I guess that's what I'm doing. My GF and I are planning a trip to Shanghai in April, and when I think about that, everything is just great. It's the hours in between that get to me. And also, like clockwork, every night recently, I wake up at about 3 a.m. and just can't get my mind off my house, my kids, and even my wife. Honestly, I really miss her. I'm kind of a stud now. If there was any one good thing about this whole ordeal, it's that it made me lose weight and got me going to the gym. Exercise is now a huge part of my life. For one thing, I now have tremendous trust issues, and I can't help wondering if this won't just happen again. She just told me yesterday, "I'm not your wife, you can trust me." I quoted back something I just read here: "Absolute trust is a heart attack waiting to happen." She didn't like that. We own one small house outright. That's the house I want. Right before I left, like 2 or 3 months before I left, we bought a large and beautiful house with just 3% down, so not much equity in that house. She wants that house and she can have it. She also bought $9,000 worth of new furniture literally the day after we moved in. No way I'm paying for her furniture. She has a well-paying job, and for another, I have quite a bit of my own debt that I took on during our marriage. If debt is split 50-50, it might just be a wash. I do have a legal question. I basically refuse to be raked over in this divorce. As I understand it, the consequences for not paying alimony or spousal support or whatever it's called are nowhere near as severe as not paying child support. Of course, I will pay child support, and I honestly don't care my daughters are biologically mine or not. Of course, the thought crossed my mind, but that's one stone I'm leaving unturned. I haven't posted details because there isn't much to tell. I had no idea anything was going on. Everything seemed fine. We cuddled all the time. After 2 kids and 8 years into marriage, we had bonding twice a week, held hands, cuddled, talked. I had no gut feelings. Nothing whatsoever made me think she was having an affair. I don't know how common that is, but it came out of the blue. Anyway, the piece of crap wife is the one who let me know. She suspected because her awful husband is a serial cheater and she knew the signs. She found texts and shared them with me, and that was that. I showed them to my wife. She broke down crying and I almost left on the spot. My mom convinced me to stay until she got her degree and found a job. The outcome for me is that now I'm always suspicious, and that really sucks. But there was nothing I could tell in her behavior that indicated she was having an affair. The text the trashy wife sent covered a 3-month period, but from the very first text, they were involved in a full-on, unprotected type affair. My wife says the affair only lasted 3 months, from the date of the first text to the date of the last text. That's why I'm saying her timeline doesn't make sense. Going by everything that I have read on affairs, and I have read so much about affairs over the last 2 years, that just doesn't happen. There are stages to affairs. According to my wife, they would have met and almost immediately launched a full-blown physical affair. What are the odds that she is telling the truth? It goes against everything I've read about affairs, and it just seems convenient that she met the guy on the date of the first text and ended the affair on the date of the last text. I just don't buy it. For months after D-Day, all I wanted to do was sleeping with my wife. I can verify that hysterical bonding is real, but also that it wears off, and I was just left with a cheating wife. And yes, whenever I looked at her, I saw the other man. I have a girlfriend now that really likes me. I actually have more disposable income now than I've had since I married, since I'm kind of old school and turned my paycheck over to my wife. I should be happy, but I'm always depressed and I can't get over it. I want to call her and try again, but I know it won't. The depression will be replaced by anger and suspicion. Wife sucks, but it should be better now. It's not. I haven't bothered at all studying up on divorce, even though I'm an expert now on infidelity. I do know men have a harder time with divorce than women, so I'm guessing she has moved on quickly. I haven't heard a single word from her for 3 months, including no contact with my daughters. My lawyer said it probably isn't a good idea to just go over there and knock on her door. I don't know. Honestly, if I knew for a fact that she would still want to reconcile, I would contact her. If she were to contact me today and ask if we could try and work things out, I would agree. I see is probably the next logical step. As far as my girlfriend, I just had the strangest encounter with her last week. After dinner and a walk, we were having coffee. She inches her chair closer and says, out of the blue, she thinks we should just be friends. I was really caught off guard, but not like devastated, but I wanted to know why, and she's saying things like, no chemistry, different relationship goals, then out of the blue bursts into tears. It was really weird. We have been texting, but we haven't seen each other this whole past week. I don't think about her at all. I finally had my first court hearing today and got a few things resolved. Based on my gross salary of $55,000 per year, I'll have to pay between $600 to $800 per month for child support, and spousal support wasn't even mentioned. My lawyer said in Indiana, spousal support is minimal at most. I'm happy with that part. On the other hand, my wife cashed out some annuities and I had wanted half of that, but the judge said she can keep it for now, but it will be considered as assets, either mediation or if it goes to court. I don't know. I can't say I'm happy with the rulings, but I guess it could have been worse. Overall, what I felt is relief. Update: I have a dilemma. I'm working in China but have a new job in Myanmar starting in July. I'm divorcing my cheating wife, but not in time for the move to Myanmar. Myanmar is a very conservative country and initially said that my GF could not live with me in faculty housing until we were able to get married. When I pressed the issue, they reluctantly agreed that she could stay with me, but absolutely no way would they allow her daughter from a previous marriage to attend the school. My girlfriend is pregnant. She refuses to come with me and leave her daughter with her ex-husband. She wants me to remain in China. I just left my 2 biological daughters to go back overseas and rescue my career as an international school teacher. I just can't bring myself to make the sacrifice for another man's child that I wouldn't make for my own children. I'm going to marry my GF as soon as I can. I will send her all my money and I'll even sign over my share of assets once distributed, but I am not giving up my career for the sake of another man's child. She is distraught over this and I feel terrible, but my mind is made up. Am I a rotten person for this? Why can't she let her ex watch the girl for the duration of my 2-year contract? Let me say one thing in my defense. When you go to see the doctor in China about a pregnancy, the first question you are asked at reception, and I mean the very first question, do you want it? Both my GF and the receptionist looked at me. It would have been so easy to say no, we don't want it, but I chose life. My GF and the baby will have abundant resources and I'll have another child, hopefully a boy, that I can see at holidays and whenever my GF and soon-to-be wife can visit in Myanmar. I bet if I was in the military, off ex-little Arab babies, people wouldn't be so harsh. Hell, they all probably want to give me a medal. I certainly didn't want this to happen. I can't even say I love my GF. I do trust her. I was depressed and she really helped me and she restored my confidence. I'll support that baby and my GF until the day I'm gone. Just like I'll support my 2 daughters and like I supported my 2 sons before that. Okay, I'm a rotten guy, but I would never encourage a woman to abort my baby. I could have and with zero stigma, but I chose life. So how bad can I be? My comment: what would you guys do in OP's situation? I think the divorce kind of changed the OP's character. Is it going to a darker side? Story 2. I am trying to sort things out before I lose control. I will try to be as brief as I can, but this one is a little complex. I've been with my wife for 6 years total, 3 months married. I actually cheated on her about 6 months into our relationship, 2013. I felt horrible and remorseful, as I am not the traditional cheater type. I actually care about her, and I'm a truthful person, so I told her. Very hard decision and process. Side note, upon telling her, she cried and broke things in my home, and then she initiated extremely passionate bonding with me immediately after. I thought that was weird. This was about 5 years ago. She chose to stay with me and try to work through all of the resentment and horrible emotions. And things seemed to start looking up a bit around 2014, and in 2015 I tried to make sure she saw my effort in making the best relationship ever. She actually told me this: we are party people, and we attended a New Year's party. We start the year off with a kiss at 12 a.m. as our tradition. The next week we were off to Hawaii for a few days. Valentine's Day was spent having quality time, champagne, and strawberries on a helicopter ride around the city. March, a few days in Puerto Rico with friends. In April, we had a fallout at a co-ed bachelor party for one of my best friends, for seemingly no apparent reason. I go work long hours regularly and used to work night shift back then. That's when I started to realize that despite me spending time when I can, and showering her with affection, she seemed to pick fights and get mad for no obvious reason. Then she would try to argue, which I don't really engage in, and storm off, or go to her friend's or mom's house. In May my father was ex. It was the most terrible feeling in the world. June, we spent her birthday weekend at a lake house with friends, and she picked a fight then, stormed outside where there were a couple of other people. She had refused bonding on several occasions through the months up to this point, including that night, which always frustrated and baffled me. In July, after a friend's birthday party, she picked a fight at a lounge, citing that I did not show emotion and act like I cared if to talk to other dudes. What the hell, I'm a very mild-mannered, relaxed, and very trusting guy. I am also secure. She has dated many jealous types, and she is a jealous type. I guess she could not accept my personality, so I thought. So that night we get home. I'm eager for bonding as it has been 2 weeks of not in the moods and maybe later. She throws a tantrum and leaves my home at like 3 a.m. Side note, this was the first night off of her period when she is normally extremely horny. I was pissed, frustrated, and suspicious. I drove by her mom's house where she said she was going. She wasn't there. I called here and she sends me a text saying, "Leave me alone." I went psycho for a second and called her like 13 times in a row, only to get V-mail. I then packed all of her things and left them at the door of her mom's house. We finally talked and got back together 2 weeks later, and she promised me that she had not gone over any guy's house, and she would tell me if that was the case. She said that she went to her cousin's house and spent the night to get away from me because she was frustrated. We discussed my prior infidelity, and I clearly expressed to her the importance of trusting to tell the truth no matter how bad the situation. She agreed. Earlier that year we went to a friend's birthday party and I noticed that there was a little bit of flirtatious chemistry between them. I told her to back off and she obliged. I have since decided I'd like her hand in marriage after being through so much. I proposed. We had a beautiful and memorable wedding. Everything is perfect for the last 3 months straight. 2018 New Year's Eve, she has words with a mutual guy friend who is dating her cousin, and she thinks he is a total loser. She has had animosity for this guy for a while, citing that he dated one of her other cousins and is a dirty man harlot. Meanwhile, I'm thinking the whole time, why don't you let them lead their life as they may? Anyway, words got exchanged, then shoving. That when I realized the commotion was between those two and I stepped between them, then calmly and firmly pushed the guy into another room. I ask him what his problem is. He says that she is trying to come between him and her cousin's relationship and he refuses to be disrespected. I say fine, don't ever touch her again, come to me. I remained calm, civil, and mild-mannered through this whole ordeal. He then goes on to illustrate how he had an 8-month affair with her in 2015, starting at the New Year's Eve party, you know, the annual kiss from earlier, going through August. He said that she grabbed and kissed him that night, while they were alone in the garage for a split second. I believe it because that is her MO and the way we began talking in the first place. He also said that she would text him after a couple weeks passed. According to the timeline, that's about the time we returned from Hawaii. He said that she would meet up with him for happy hour drinking sessions. I'd usually be at work around this time, and drink, bonding, and she would come home to me. He also said she stated that I failed to show interest in her by not calling, not showing emotion, etc. He said, and I quote, "We did everything basically like a real relationship. She was even going to come visit me in Arizona while away for work. I started to feel very uncomfortable when she kept bringing you around. It wasn't right. I didn't know you that well at first, but when I started getting to know you it got really uncomfortable. I broke it off the night of my birthday party in August. I asked if he had developed feelings for her. He said, how can you have a relationship with someone for that long and not have feelings for them? I wasn't in love, but yes, there were feelings. I called her in the room and asked her why she was so interested in the guy's relationship with her cousin, and she said, and I quote, because, you know why I said I need to hear it from you? Because we messed around. Then looks at the guy and says, thanks for ruining our New Year's Eve. More words were exchanged. It got heated. I escorted dude out with the host of the party. I went home livid. She stayed at a friend's house. After I replayed the situations in my mind over and over again, I picked up a few things. 1. I feel that she was basically taunting this dude and using me, her husband, as a pawn to try to make him jealous on New Year's Eve. So classless and childish. 2. She showed zero remorse with a pitiful gutless admission of guilt, which I still had to dig for. 3. The guy said that the reason he went to the 2015 New Year's party in the first place was because she invited him. 4. I asked the guy about the specific night that she left my house at 3 a.m. and he said, it's funny that you mentioned that night, because I remember specifically, she said that she picked a fight with you on purpose so she could have a reason to come see me. As a matter of fact, we basically met up and had slept together every time she said she felt neglected. So however many times you can remember her saying that, that's how many times we had slept together. 5. Everything the dude said matched up with the timeline perfectly, even one incident where he said that at the lake house, she did not want to F you that night, so she picked a fight and came outside and tried to sleep with me while you were in the other room. We got fondled and kissed, but I felt too uncomfortable, so I told her to stop. 6. As for that one night in July 2015, she has still not owned up to it as of right now. I felt horrible then, and I never truly bought her story. I feel exponentially horrible now, with even more anger and pure dark rage. I can't see her or talk to her without completely losing it, so I told her not to contact me and find somewhere else to stay, at least till I can think about this without these emotions clouding my judgment. I know that this all sounds like a bad episode of a Real Housewives of such and such show, but this pile of worm-infested dog poop is my life right now, and I'm a nuclear bomb in a Coke bottle about to detonate. I'm seeing a therapist in the morning. I would appreciate any insight or advice, or feedback or something. I'm so lost in emotions right now I can't think straight. Mainly anger, hurt, betrayal, fury, rage. Mostly rage. I guess karma is a B. As a kid, she claims that she was exed by her father at a young age, maybe preteen, and this continued through her early teens, I think, but I don't have all of the details. She has never gone through therapy or had any resolution for this situation, and to this day she hates her dad's guts and thinks very little of him. I'm totally not making a case for her, but I am being pragmatic and thinking through this whole ordeal to avoid getting violent, at least as much as I can. But if there is one single thing that I can think of that could contribute to this borderline pathological behavior, this would be it. And if this does correlate, thorough long-term individual and couples counseling, then starting from scratch, is the only way I can even see myself eventually getting back with her. Eventually could mean a decade or more, or just a few years. It will take a while for me to get a real handle on this rage. I am constantly at a snapping point. Bruce Banner, snapping point. I have already destroyed half of my living room when I walked in and I saw her wanting to talk. She promptly left, as I told her so, for both of our protections. If what she said is true about the molestation, this is the only nearly severed thread of empathy I have left for her, as she has said that she has only shared that with me. I think her mom and brother know of the situation, and it was the reason for her mom's divorce from him. But then again, it could be a part of her wicked plan. I would have to go to her father man to get the real story. This is not a recent plea from her, but something she told me back in 2013 or 2014, I think. Otherwise, I hope she gets hit by a burning bus careening out of control at 200 miles per hour. Everything inside me is pointing to exposing them in the most gracefully humiliating way possible. Maybe a Facebook video, and a book to all the wedding guests, but first by calling her mom. I will check with my therapist before I take action. I really make me feel good to know that in this crazy world that we live in, when the people closest to you betray you, there are angels in the form of strangers like y'all that can help. I pretty much can't see anything but divorce at this point. I just needed confirmation that I was thinking logically in all of my blind rage. She hurt me to the core, like scarred for life type of pain. This is the most emotionally unstable I have ever been in my life. I gave her my complete being and love, and she cut my heart open and crap in it. I'm so infuriating I have not even begun to grieve or cry, and I tried to. I am trying to get to a point where I get my rage under control, and then I will start to deal with all of the other details. This is the messiest part of my life right now, but not the only. My therapist said that it sounds like I need a release from all of the other things compounding my life already. I'm just going to focus on my remaining sanity for now. Thanks all. I hope y'all had a better start to the year than I did. I cheated because I had a big desire and away from home for work. I finally stopped the encounters due to guilt build-up. My fling had nothing really to do with emotions and stuff. It was exciting at first, then made me feel terrible inside. It was good but felt wrong. The ill feeling completely overpowered the good feelings eventually. and I could not stomach it. That is not the life for me, and I knew it then. I have since developed stronger will, the same will that prevented me from making both of them cold cases that night. The same will that prevented me from choking her when I walked in and she was on the couch. The same will that helped me pass on the advances with girls that every guy I know fantasizes about. No joke, on several occasions. One night during the 2-week time we were apart, after she stormed out of the house at 3 a.m., I was hit on several times. Basically an open invitation by this super hot chick all of my friends knew, but she was notoriously kinky but selective. She came onto me hard, and I politely deflected her while thinking of my girlfriend, who turned out to be a guy who I thought I was cool with. I wish I could go back in chronological order and take that offer, to go further back and undo all of this, especially my fling. Then fast forward back to my wedding and life happily ever after. This whole situation really sucks and wish this on nobody. I can't say if she is actively pursuing the affair or not, but after witnessing the anger between the both of them, and his admission of prior feelings present, and the length of time of the affair, I can definitely surmise that the emotions run very deep. Deep enough for her to still try and taunt this dude into an argument the same way she used to do me, at a New Year's Eve party after we just did our ceremonial kiss at midnight. With the hell in front of our whole core of friends. He went for the bait, henceforth the altercation and admission. Whenever she tried to pick a fight with me, 8 times out of 10 she was huffing and puffing and throwing tantrums on her own. I usually, and still try not to engage in meaningless arguments, partly because it's a waste of time and partly because I know I have issues with rage. Once I get mad, it never goes well. So, I never get mad, and try my best not to get physical. My father told me when I was very young that with the type of temper I had, I would either end up dead or in jail unless I learn how to control it. Now I'm so glad that I have been working on managing it from a very young age. But I am at the brink of a meltdown, and I have sought out counseling. This was my first session ever, and the therapist was even impressed that I showed so much self-control and was very hopeful and encouraging. Oh my God, the rage crossfades with the pain. Indescribable. My mind is in a constant state of recalibration. Like a Nintendo that constantly resets itself when you turn it on, or a computer that auto-restarts seemingly infinitely. Waking up and reaching over to rub her back and realizing there is no one there. Then immediately realizing all over again exactly why no one is there. It's already hard to digest, and it's like a cruel Groundhog Day. As I awake, love is the first action, pain is the first meal for breakfast every morning, hurt is the first emotion, anger is the first reaction. I feel so sorry for anyone who is going through this type of pain, and I wish you all the best, from the bottom of my shattered heart. She has tried to come by, but I flipped out and destroyed lots of furniture and told her to leave. She quickly left after I flipped over a table and got in her face. I screamed at her to look me in the eyes and get the hell out of my house. They say that the eyes are the window to the soul. I wanted her to see my rage and realize that she was in grave danger. She still is, but I truly and genuinely am working through this. I expressed my rage to my therapist, and he said if I do communicate with her it should be talk or text. I had already blocked her calls before my therapist even mentioned this, as I can't hear from her. The thought of being in her presence make me tremble with this inexplicably dark emotion. I'm trembling right now as I type. Has anyone ever seen the TV show Dexter? This must be the way he feels when he sees blood spatter. I'm so serious, and it saddens and frightens me. She has no idea of what I'm capable of, and I don't want to find out either. I'm going to try to completely shift gears and go to a football game and get out of the house. I started packing her clothes, as I thought that might get things started. I can't be around her or see her until I get control. I am very unstable at this time, and I would hate for the rage to boil over. I occasionally break something for quick releases, and I plan to go work out on my punching bag. I plan to get back into MMA as well, like this week. I don't know where she is, and I don't want to know. I think it's best that way. For safety reasons at least. I could imagine if I had woken up this morning with the same loving gesture of reaching over to rub her back and then realizing what she had done all over again. And today was a great day, the first day I felt slightly refreshed after an outing with friends. I'm not a very religious person, but I often thank God for my life, well-being, and that of others. My friend was encouraging about what we go through in life, and about God building us to be resilient as long as we are sensitive to the cues given to us. I'm looking at this situation and I know it's a test, I just don't know what is being tested. That unknown also frightens me supremely. Obviously, I am a very trusting person, and having the courage to trust is built into my character. I don't mean complete blind trust, but I feel that I'm more trusting than the average Joe. That same thing has allowed me to take risks in telling the truth where it could have destroyed my career. I have made grave mistakes and I owned up to it. My relationship, my cheating admission, and other parts of my life, making deals with people and not being able to fulfill them, and communicating the issue when it arises. I literally try my best to be honest about mistakes throughout life, which can be very hard. I truly feel that this helps me grow as a person and simultaneously helps bond people together, regardless of how truth hurts. That is why I would not even be on this forum if it were her that came clean directly to me. I would have felt even closer to her. Hypothetically, if she would have decided to leave me to pursue this guy after she admitted an affair directly to me and was accountable and mature, I would respect her for being honest and truthful about her feelings. I would be hurt, but I would want her to be happy, and I would request a swift divorce to set her free. So, the answer to this question is a no-brainer, yes. I would lay my trust down on the line again, but incrementally in small connecting pieces like Legos, to build a bridge back to the complete heart and soul that I bared throughout our relationship. I am who I am, and she knows this, but I will not be disrespected, and I do not have a problem divorcing her if that is what I finally decide. If she can give me unconditional trust, I can see it working eventually. If not, we're done. In reality, all I want from her is unconditional love, unconditional trust, worthiness, and the best bonding our planet has to offer. I have to wait and actually talk to her before I make a decision. I feel that I finally can see the light at the end of the tunnel of anger. I feel like some progress was made today. I'm still enraged, but not nearly as much as this morning, which was only slightly less than yesterday. I still think we need to separate because I want to continue therapy alone and work on some of my billion projects I had going on before this situation. Besides, I need to see how she reacts to the very likely and real possibility of our marriage ending. I will try the 180 and see if that clues me into her true feelings at this point. Also, I want to say that this stuff is bad, it truly is, but we have had some equally good experiences throughout our relationship. This fact is one of the things that makes the situation so complex, trying to figure out at what points the positives were actually genuine. If what much of your advice and the details suggest is true, then this is the most beautiful lie I have ever lived. I wish y'all could have experienced some of the purely blissful things we did. This realization cuts even more deeply. I would never wish this pain on anyone. I have not felt this bad since the passing of my father in 2015, during the same 8 months she was carrying on this affair. She actually helped me clean my dad's stuff off of the floor in the place where he was exed, and this act is one of the things that reinforced my complete trust in her. There were 2 people there that day, my best man and her. The place was a total trash. Rotten food that had been sitting there for 2 weeks, the putrid smell of dead flesh and old fermented garbage. The weight of what happened only 7 days prior, and these were the 2 people with me at the absolute lowest point in my life. Oh my God. No words. See what I mean about beautiful lie? An act of compassion like that. It's so hard even conceived, much less to swallow, that it was not genuine. Maybe it seemed so because Dad's passing is such an emotional event, and having her in my life was one of the things that helped me cope. She was there. From the moment I pulled up to the scene, I relive this ordeal often, and often she is there with open arms of sympathy. Like I said, the trust thing is who I am. The trust with her has been broken beyond repair. I cannot see it ever getting back to the level it was. I am optimistic, but this optimism is about my resilience, not our relationship per se. I'm optimistic about trusting again. I will not let this situation ruin my mind or my life as it has ruined my heart. My comment: you had an affair and chose to stop. Your wife, in a deliberate and premeditated way, had a long-term affair where she manipulated you and the situation so she could have fun and then come home to you taking care of her. You had guilt. She has none. I feel this OP is just delaying the separation. It will come eventually because the trust is not there anymore. Subscribe, and I got a good relationship lesson coming.